All right, and here we go.
And here we go. All right, so we are going to work slowly into it as people join us here this evening. I've got to find the YouTube link to make sure that I can share it around to everyone who's going to join us as well. My son is in another room, ready and waiting. He tells me he's got questions for you.
Oh, amazing.
So let me just pull up the other screen as well. Welcome to is this the first one we're doing this year, Tin? I guess it is, right?
First one, yes.
First one. So this is the first creative exchange that we're doing in 2020. So thank you guys so much for being here. We are going to kick off in just a minute as we get a few more people joining us. For those of you who don't know, Creative Exchange is a online. At the moment, we get people online. Sometimes we do it in person to share share stories of creatives out in the world creating their own path. And so we always look forward to doing these. This one is no different. So we are joined by Isami today. So where are you today as well, Isami, before we start?
Yeah, I'm in Aspen, Colorado right now. We just finished the X Games 2026, shooting that one for Monster Energy. And it's a great day. It's beautiful. It's a bluebird day.
And you guys had snow all weekend, right, for the event? It kind of snowed through. I watched Men's Slope on Saturday evening.
Yeah, it's big props to the athletes for what they do, because it is not easy in these conditions. It was kind of bad luck, I guess. Practice days was beautiful weather, best snow, no wind, and then all the event days was kind of pretty snowy, a little bit of headwind and everything. And then the day after the contest, it became bluebird again, which kind of happens sometimes. But
yeah. Okay, so just to get us underway, Isami is in Aspen, Colorado. Tin is in Vienna. I'm in Ericeira, Portugal. If everyone who's watching could jump into the chat right now and drop in where you're watching from. It's always very fun to see where people are tuning in from this evening. I appreciate it's, what are we at? It's 8 o'clock European time, 7 o'clock UK. And over in, what are we on? Mountain time with you, Isami?
Yeah, MST.
There you go, MST. Right, so we have got, here we go, Salzburg, Belgium, Norway, Oslo, Munich, Belgium, Antwerp, Australia, very cool. Toronto, Canada, Corona, Italy, getting ready for the Olympics, Slovakia, Boston, a few from Boston. Are you bringing the Boston crowd with you, or what's going on here? Have you got a big crew in Boston rooting for you?
I guess so. Whistler, love to see it.
There you go, bit of Whistler, bit of Tahiti. Yella, thanks for being here. Madison, Wisconsin.
Anyone home in Vancouver? I'm really curious about that.
Nashville, Tennessee, Argentina. Yes, please. Rotterdam. All right, we've got a heavy crew today. This is amazing. All right, feel free to keep jumping into the chat when you as people arrive. And we'll crack on. As we go through, if anyone's got questions, we would love to hear your questions. We'll do kind of a few minute intro. Oregon, yes, please, represent. We'll do a few minute intro, and then we're going to check out some of the work from Isami. And then, we're going to go into a few questions and stuff. But Tin's going to be running the controls here. He's the king of this. He's got new blue light glasses, so he looks even smarter than usual. So, all right, let's get into it. So, as you were saying, you were just at X Games. How is X Games as a photographer? I mean, how many years have you been shooting there, and how is the whole experience for you?
X Games it's the biggest show. It is X Games. I think what really differentiates it from other competitions in snowboarding is that it's a private competition held by X Games instead of FIS. So no one has like bibs or anything, and I think a lot of the time with events like Knuckle Huck, they have a lot more emphasis on rider creativity and a lot more self-expression instead of just, sprint to win. I mean, of course, Big Air these days is more tailored towards that. However, there's still Knuckle Huck where people can show off their own respective style. And such a phenomenal event to shoot. It's like the photographer's dream. It's my second year shooting for X Games. Last year, I shot for Team USA and also Red Bull, which was a ton of fun. This year, I was shooting for Monster Energy, and need to give a huge shout out to Monster and the crew there. They really just let me focus on like creative imagery, and just the whole task was to get timeless imagery for possible prints, and it was just so fun to shoot. And yeah, I had the best weekend ever.
And it's interesting. You bring up a really good point, because one of my friends, you can actually see some of his work on the back wall there. Frode Sandbeck is like one of the Norwegian legends of the photography game. And, you know, when he was coming to X Games, I forget the last one he was at, but say like the year 2000 to like 2015, you know, you'd be shooting people like Andreas Wig, and the maximum spins would be 1080s, right? So you'd be able to capture like, oh, okay, I know this guy's going to do a switchback 5 on this and tweak it out like Torgeir Bergrim or someone. And you'd be like, okay, as a photographer, I can get a still shot doing that. How is it nowadays when you've got, because I mean, we watch pipe finals as well, and it's insane the level, and people are doing like 12 to 14 to 14.
Yeah.
It must make life difficult as a photographer to kind of, you know, because again, like if someone was doing, like when Shaun White was doing a frontside 5 stalefish that he won the first Olympics with, like you kind of know that last hit on the front side wall what he's going to do, and you know you're going to have a couple of milliseconds to capture the shot. Like, how is it now for photographers during X Games?
Yeah, it's definitely different now. I'd say the big one is practice runs are really crucial, which can be hard because sometimes like events like women's free ski big air finals, they only had like 15 minutes of practice. But practice hits, they're always gonna start. No one starts off with a 20-40. Everyone starts off with like a nice back 3 method, you know, just simple straighters to get into the groove of things, and those ones always look the best. I'd say, yeah, you know, in the imagery aspect, it is definitely different now, but also it's kind of fun because trying to document and like trying to capture that one moment in time when someone's doing a 14 or 16 and stuff, it's different, but it has like a different look to it, and it's accurate to what snowboarding is like nowadays. And yeah, I think for competitions it's different, but it's still super fun for me.
And I guess it must also be interesting because the I don't know, like again, even in terms of grabs and stuff, like because people are now having to use grabs to differentiate themselves so much. Like I think when people were doing 1080, it was like pretty standard, like front 10 melon, front 10 indie, or back 10, like the back double 10 mute from snowboarders was kind of the classic. So you kind of knew what you would get. And now when you see, like even McMorris on his final hit, he did I forget if it was a front 14 triple, but like grabbed indie and poke the same way someone would do a front 360. It was like, damn, like the fact that people are doing that in the middle of slope runs is pretty insane. So
it's unreal. Like people switching up grabs mid rotation is so insane. And also I don't think people realize how much it slows your rotation down when you have to switch grabs and switch hands and everything like that. It becomes really interesting to watch. Taiga Hasegawa switches up his grabs mid rodeo. He'll do like a double rodeo and go like nose to mute or nose to indie or something like that. I can't really remember it, but yeah, he's definitely one to look out for in terms of switching up grabs. Fu Yiming can switch up his grabs, and they look phenomenal. Judd Henke's, like all these athletes, it looks so phenomenal, and yeah, it's a wild time to shoot.
Wow. So maybe we can rewind the clock a little bit. Maybe, like, if you could, first of all, like, you're relatively young, from what I can tell. Ascertain, how old are you?
I'm 21 years old.
21, all right, and you're on your second X Games. That's better than most competitors, really. How did you get into photography? Like, what was that sort of path like to get into it?
Yeah, so it was definitely interesting. For me personally, I was a really quiet kid growing up. Yeah, I like really was not good at socializing or communication or anything like that. One thing I was also never really too good at school, but one thing that always like made sense to me and that I was like kind of good at was art. Yeah, in high school, I'd like for grade 8 and 9 and stuff. I remember I'd just spend my time in the art rooms, drawing, painting all day long. And that was like my form of communication because I was bad at talking.
Mm.
And then, yeah, I spent all my time just doing art. And when I wasn't making art, living in Vancouver, I was grateful enough. I was fortunate enough that the mountain was only like 20 minutes away by bus. So I'd like either bring my snowboard to school or just go go home first, grab my snowboard, go up to the hill. And yeah, Vancouver at Grouse Mountain, they have like night riding. So
Which resort was it you would go? It was 20 minutes from school.
Grouse Mountain, they had like a gondola up, so I could take like public transit, Translink bus, the 236 up, and then yeah, be up at the hill before it got fully dark, and then yeah, I'd just be snowboarding whenever I wasn't making art, and one day it kind of just made sense to use the two. When I was growing up, I would also make like Lego stop motion movies and silly stuff like that. And I was always invested in cameras, and it was always such a cool thing for me. So one day I found out what snowboard photography was and just decided to mix the two, and nothing like in this world has made more sense than that. And just fell in love with it immediately.
Wow. And before, like, did you know when you got it, like so photography and snowboarding came first, then photography came along, like, and then when you got into it, did you have a specific style based on your art that you were already doing, like a direction that you would take your photography, or is that something that's evolved over the last sort of decade?
Yeah, I think it's definitely evolved, but at the start, there was a local photographer called Edwin Holston. He went by like I know the image Instagram, but he was like the guy at Grouse Mountain taking photos, and I would just reference so many of his shots. He does a phenomenal job at like clean imagery, and yeah, I referenced so many of his photos starting out, and I think that really gave me an eye for like what clean imagery looks like. A guy that's placed in the sky that has a clean backdrop with mountains in the background and all that stuff. And then I also took a lot of inspiration from Mike Dawson, who was really good at framing his subjects with his environment. So using trees as foreground was a big one. And I think like taking from the best photographers, I just started to develop an eye early on based off that. And then within the past few years, just looking at various different photographers, environments, industries, I've started to develop my own style. I don't think I've fully solidified what that looks like, and I kind of don't want to ever, because I want to be forever chasing this chasing this art and trying different things constantly.
And how, because maybe we can actually, maybe if you want to show us some of your work now, if that works does that work to share it? I'm not sure. Tin, all right, here we go, Tin. Because a lot of the work that, like, for example, from X Games, like there's a lot where like your use of light and composition is really unique. Like, for example, the top image there of the layback / 2 in from the left.
Mm-hmm.
Are you shooting that with radio slaves, or how are you doing that?
So that one, that is my favorite photo so far. Yeah, so that one, it was Raibu Katayama at Bald Face Low Maintenance. So it was almost kind of an accident how I took that one. I had two strobe lights, a Godox 8400 and a Godox 8600. And it was snowing so much, and I think for a moment like my 400 stopped working, and it also like kind of rolled down the hill because I didn't have a stable tripod. And so I was left with one light and maybe 15 minutes left in the session. At the start, there was like a massive group session with so many athletes, and then by the end of the 15 minutes, it was just me and Raibu hiking, taking photos, and my strobe rolled down the hill, and I'm like, oh crap, what do I do with one light? If I front light it, there's too much fog where the fog will kind of get in the way of the light, and you can't really see him too clearly. So I decided to backlight him and just do a silhouette shot, just not really expecting too much. And yeah, that was just shot backlight. I don't even think I'd use like high speed sync, like 1/200 shutter on a 10 to 18 millimeter at I think 18 millimeters ish. ISO cranked up super hella and 1/1 flash power, and just fully backlit him. Made him to 2 attempts. That was the first one, I think. And oh no, that was the second one. Last shot of the day, he was too cold and rainy. I was too cold and wet at the end of the day. All my gear was soaked and frozen. We called it a day. That was the last photo I took. And it was phenomenal.
And then I have a camera. I'm not very good, so please excuse my dumb questions. The fuck, I don't know what you want to call it. The motion blur, or whatever you're going to call it. Like stay tin. Yeah, but go back up a little bit in the middle, like those two in the center there. Is that slow shutter speed? What are we doing here?
So that one is one of my favorite practices to do. It's a multi-exposure. So in camera with Canon, I'm not sure about other cameras, but you can set multi-exposures where it shoots multiple different images and then combines it into one. It's an old practice that comes from film when you would shoot a roll of film, reload it, and then there'll be 2 different exposures on the same photo. This one is shot digitally, but shot multi-exposure. So it would take 3 photos before combining it into one image. And that one was, I think, for St. Moritz World Championships 2025 with Kokomo Marase. And that one, it was just, I kept doing multi-exposures the whole week, and I thought it was so much fun and brought this like different aesthetic to the craft of photography. And it was a lot of references from like Mike Dawsey and Josh Bishop, but I didn't really see too many people use like slow shutter combined with it. And that one, it was just, I think like 1/5 shutter or something. Don't really remember off the top of my head, but yeah, all shot in camera, like kind of trying to let the subject move past me for one shot, and then middle of the shot, try and track the subject for one shot, and then letting the subject move past me. So it kind of gets like one clear shot of the athlete, and then the other 2 having like a little bit of blur. Yeah. I messed up a lot taking that photo, but that was one that worked out.
And then, and also for anyone watching, if you've got questions about specific photos, just drop in the chat of like which photo you have a question about. If you go back up, Tin, sorry, this is going to be slow going, so I want to stop and talk about every photo. The half pipe shot of the, I'm not sure if it's a backside air Japan or it looks like a backside air goofy footed rider. Where was this shot?
It was shot at Locke, Switzerland in January 2025, exactly like close to a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to, I suppose, to frame it this way, because usually at Larks, you're probably there for European Open. There's a ton of people about, and you've kind of got quite a unique look to this image, right?
Yeah, so I was really happy about that one, because that was my first assignment with the US snowboard team. One of the first images I ever shot for them. Yeah, so about a week before the Locks Open last year, Team US had like a private training camp with at the half pipe. So there's no crowd or anything like that. It's just like pretty much us on hill. There's also the other nations and stuff there, but it just made it really like, it was really quiet and peaceful there, which kind of let me enter like a really nice state of flow. And with that one, it was pretty foggy, but it had kind of like become a perfect window where a little bit of sunlight was shining through to give a little bit of light to the fog. So for that one, to preserve the highlights, I shot it like 3 stops underexposed at a really low ISO, at a high aperture. And yeah, it was just like kind of perfect, where we had like maybe a 10-minute window where the fog was kind of low and then the sun was just right above it, so it'd show a little bit of like sparkles and kind of reflect off the fog.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a fun one.
A question about that. So you said you shot it 3 stops under, and there's a question here from Byron McIntosh. How do you approach editing your photos? What is the creative process? I was wondering, because for example, like with that image, you could quite easily just, I guess, just do it all in post, right? But you choose to do the settings when you shoot it and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get that question a lot because like multi-exposures and different filters and stuff. Yeah, technically you can do it in post. If we want to go to the one with like the snow, kind of like the water droplet looking things in front of the frame of the half pipe. To your left, a little bit down, Tim. To your left.
One up.
There's it.
Which one?
Yeah, I get the snow leak photo with like kind of like water droplets in front of the half pipe of the skier.
Oh,
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I get that question quite a bit of like, why do you do everything in camera versus on Photoshop? Because you could find, probably a water droplets layover and then I don't know, do a blend mode in Photoshop or something. But to me, it's like multi-exposures, filters, all this stuff will always have it'll always have more soul. There will always be those imperfections when you make everything in camera. I find personally that when I make stuff in Photoshop, it looks too clean, it looks too perfect, and it kind of loses like a human essence to it. But with the multi-exposure, like when I'm tracking it, I can't guarantee that every single layer will be consistent. But in Photoshop, I can make sure that'll be consistent, and that's what I'll probably do. But it kind of loses to me a little bit of like soul behind the image and behind the piece that I'm making. Stuff like this. This was shot with a prism lens effects filter with like sparkles in front of it. So it kind of creates like this unique like water droplet effect. But that it can probably be mimicked in Photoshop. But to me, how the light hits those individual sparkles will only be available in the current moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's I guess kind of the process that I go through in camera instead of trying to chase it in post. And I guess the question was, how do you approach your editing photos? Yeah, how I approach it is kind of just how I felt in the moment taking the photo. Like the method photo, I shot it underexposed, and I knew that I wanted to take out the exposure in post, and everything I do kind of just goes off of what I feel in the field and what I'm thinking currently while I'm shooting, and then kind of just edit based off that, I guess.
And then next question from Shreddy Sleep goes into this. What's your most versatile lens to use when you're shooting?
Yeah, so I'd say something that's variable, kind of from a medium focal length up to right before like a zoom. So right now I use a 28-70 f2 from Canon. That's what I take like probably 70% of my images on. That one, I feel like with a 28, you can kind of get in the moment, get pretty close to people, and like do a little bit of like wider shots in a sense, especially when I'm shooting bigger features. But with a 70 and everything in between, I can kind of just have a perfect lens to cycle through. And then other than that, I'll use like a 15 millimeter fisheye and a zoom lens that's either the 1-500 by Canon or the 1-300 f2.8 by Canon.
Yeah. Very cool. This, by the way, I think this is one of the most engaged in terms of questions we've had. It's really good. Question here from Philip Sifkin. I do apologize if I pronounced the surname wrong, Philip. How do you choose your shooting location during big events like X Games? Do you decide by running order, or do you like figure out the feature you want? Like how do you plan that?
So for me, when I'm shooting a contest, usually I'll be shooting for a client. Really depends what the client needs from my aspect. When I shoot for the US snowboard team, typically we'll need like kind of standard PR looking photos for any news outlets or any announcements, people or posters or anything like that. That simple photos that show the athlete really well. It's a little bit more zoomed in. That's kind of like the first shot that I try to get out of the way. And then second of all, I think location scouting is kind of a big one. For this year's X-Games and Lobster, and I kind of had like a day to get to the hill, scope out any features and any angles that I was kind of thinking of.
Yeah.
And of course, light will change just always. But yeah, for me, location scouting is a major one. I like getting to a venue like a day early or something with no crowd, with no one there, just to see what the features look like and kind of the possible angles. Yeah, how I decide that during contest is, I guess, what I've shot so far. Team USA, after I've shot those basic PR photos that the team needs, I'll kind of start to move around and have the idea already in my head that, like, okay, from back here, I can get a crowd in the shot, zoom out a little bit with, like, 70mm or something, get this, use this sort of filter. And yeah, definitely takes time, but it is something I like to take my time with and think it through pretty thoroughly.
Nice. Okay, there's a couple of questions right on the nose here. We're going to stay in the technical side of photography. We'll get to the business side later because there's a bunch of people who are interested in that. This is from Irvin. Oh, no. Where's a good one? Stephen Place here. One focal length for the rest of your life. Pick one.
Huh. 28mm, I guess. 28mm, I love going a little bit wider with some of my photos. And I feel like you can really get into like kind of like the athlete's space with that one. It's my go-to for like headshots and stuff like that. I feel like it kind of immerses you in the environment. And yeah, sometimes with wider, you can get nice like silhouette photos and whatnot. But 28mm is probably the focal length that I'd stick with. So I'd love to have everything.
Okay, I've got one. So you're allowed one filter. Sorry, you're allowed one. You're allowed one lens. You're allowed one athlete to shoot with for the rest of your life. Who's that?
Yeah, man, it's one athlete. I mean, I would say 28-70. Yeah, that Canon RF 28-70 FP is like all-time favorite. That thing is a beast. One athlete. Oh my god, that's a hard one because I love all my friends. I mean, Rocco Jameson, he has such good style. I love how he looks on rails and midair. Knuckle hockey saw him at PNC, he looks phenomenal. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say a few athletes. Like Chase Josie, Chase Blackwell from the US snowboard team on the half pipe side. Amazing style. I don't shoot anyone better in the half pipe with them. And then Kokomo Morase, she's just so like oozing with style. It's incredible to see. Every frame I have of her is like an A-grade photo.
Yeah, it's been the standard across the board has just risen at such a rate. But it's also, I think there was a moment there, like you mentioned it earlier, a spin to win in some of the contests. And I think there is still that need, but now people have brought style into big spins as well, which is insane to see.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, so there is a bunch. I'm just trying to see if there's any. Sorry, there was also a couple more technical questions as well. Do you use a lot of ND filters, or any other type of filters for your lenses?
Yeah, I use a lot of like different filters, like halo filters for Prism One effect, Ghost B1 by Prism One effects for like certain draggy looking photos. But I'm gonna be honest, I'm really bad at using ND filters. I pack ND filters in my camera bag every single time, but how often I touch them is kind of criminal. Yeah, I don't like to admit it, but I always clean my sensor and then kind of just bring it up like F22 and stuff, which not the best advice in the world. That's the wrong way to do it probably. But it's something like that just works for me. And yeah, it's like, I don't know, sometimes you can kind of see it in certain images where there's like a little dot in a frame of a dust speck, but don't take after me for ND filters. Use ND filters, but I just run F22 sometimes.
Okay, there's another one here that from Mig Brada. What's the most important skill to practice to create a reliable base for this kind of content?
That's a really good question. I mean, I would say one thing is like, I'd say two things. One thing is like technical knowledge of your camera. knowing what your camera can do, what its limits are, what different ISOs, f-stops, shutter speeds look like is huge and like super crucial in terms of like technically taking a good photo. But one more thing I would say is just communication skills and people skills is also insanely important. Yeah, I was always really bad at communication, but one thing I really tried to work on throughout high school was just like talking to people. And I used to work at a snowboard shop, so I could talk to more people and get better at socializing. Yeah, I mean, it's an industry of people. It's an industry of, there's always a person behind something, and being able to talk to them and have a person-person relationship is going to be hugely valuable. And it's all about who you know, I feel like, too. So, yeah.
And so I suppose to that point, and there's a lot of questions, so I'll have to try and figure out. I mean, or Tin, maybe just throw up the questions you think are the most relevant. But for example, I'm going to figure out where we start here, because, well, Tin, you can find a couple of questions to put up, but while we're doing that, I'll ask you a question. What's as you said, it's a relationship game. It's who you know. What are the sort of most crucial things that you remember into that, or like on your journey? What have been those most important things? Because as you say, if you're quite shy, that's also not that easy to be like, right, I need to make a bunch of good contacts now to fuel my career. And I'm sure a lot of people share that same thing of like, man, like, how am I going to go and meet all these people I need to meet to get paid, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, I actually had a great conversation with Josh Bishop this morning, who's the PM of the Monster Ski side. And one thing that he said was like, it's not an industry where assholes thrive anymore. It used to be like, oh, if you're cool, like all this stuff. Like now it's people remember relationships quite a bit. People remember human to human contacts and just communication that you have. Like I think being a good person and being friendly is hugely crucial. And I'd say that is also something that makes you memorable. Like I can look at a photo on Instagram and think it's really cool, but I'm also gonna remember someone that I met a little bit more than just a cool photo I saw, because I have like a face to ID them with, and like I have that human connection with. I'd say there's, you can be the best photographer in the world, but if you aren't good at socializing, or if you're kind of an asshole, like I don't know how far it's fully going to get you. It's one of those things where like if you're kind of just good to engage with as a human being, it's going to take you far. It's a hugely underappreciated asset and technical skill set to have. I'd say that's a crucial skill to have if you're trying to make it in any sort of industry, not just photography. But and then also like, even if you don't make it far, you're still a good person to kind of win either way, right?
And then this question on the screen now. So getting into big events, how do you get into the big events? Do you have to get an invite? Do you get there through brands, or can you just show up?
It's a good question. And I feel like it's always different, but technically a lot of the big events like X Games do tour, I guess Rocks are open now, Epic Fest, like any FIS event, Rocks open. On their website, they'll have media sign-up sheets. So on like a Locks Open website, you go scroll down to the bottom of the page where it says media, and then if it's open, it'll say like sign up for a media pass, and we put in down like what organization you work for, what your name is, etc. And that's like a great way to get media credentials and kind of get access to like photo spots and lift tickets and stuff like that. One big advice I'd have for that is if you have a name attached to you, if you're working for a publication, if you're starting out, that helps hugely. When I was 16, I started working for a magazine called Snowboard Canada, and I don't even remember. I think for the first year I wasn't even getting paid, but that one, it was crucial for me because I could have a publication and organization to link my name with when I signed up for media credentials. And you also have to think of it in this aspect where for a organization or for an event, sure, they'll benefit off the photos you take, but they're going to benefit way more if another magazine or website or publication pushes their content and event more. And for me, that was Snowboard Canada, where it was a magazine publication that could promote the event itself. And I got a lot more invites and a lot more media passes approved at the earlier stage before I had a bigger name.
Yeah.
Just by having a name associated to a publication. Yeah, internships are great. Yeah.
And it's, I guess also as well, you know, things like European Open is a good example. You can still shoot there, but you just won't have accreditation to get to those spots, right? So if you just want to practice shooting, if you've just got your first camera for Christmas or something and you're living in Zurich and you want to just see how it is to try and actually shoot pictures of people in the half pipe, you can shoot long lens from the chairlift, from the no-name bar. Like there's a bunch of ways just to kind of get a feeling, and you know that you'll be able to shoot with some of the best riders. Like I was team managing for a couple of different brands, and so I could sort of access around. I wasn't a very good photographer, but you know, the ability to go and shoot sort of close to the first hit when Sean White would drop in would be so different to trying to shoot anyone else on earth, because you're like, oh, you have so much time to actually get what you're trying to do here, and you kind of have a rough idea of amplitude every time as well.
Yeah, like half pipe is a great place to go because it's just like so many hits, so many different angles, and like since it's only one feature, you are kind of forced to like move around and find different stuff to shoot. And I mean, just how you can show up to the European Open, like locks open with an iPhone and record your own video for social media.
Yeah.
I would, for that one, I would definitely, I think locks open is pretty chill, but I would also make sure that if you are bringing your own camera, that you are allowed to do that. I know for certain concerts and festivals and stuff, they don't allow like DSLRs and stuff in. But yeah, I'd say double check that. But most places you should be fine.
All right, bad advice coming here from the English guy.
No, it's good advice. It's definitely, you didn't say anything wrong.
There was a question here about making it into a career. Oh, Tin, where's that one gone? I'm lost on all the comments now. There was a really good one. Let's start with this one from Ivan Klu. Let's start with this one. Who was your first small client and then your first big client? So
small client
was your first like media title, right?
Yeah, Snowboard Canada, I'd say was my first like, definitely wasn't too small, but it was my first like proper client. Yeah, Snowboard Canada, I worked as an intern from the ages of 16 to 17, and then from 17 to 19, I think, I worked as their digital editor. Yeah, that was my first client, I guess. I'd like, I think I had like a $400 retainer set up with them every single month to shoot a few events and upload stuff on their Instagram and, do Google SEO analytics and WordPress and all this stuff. I guess that was like my first smaller client, which got me in the door and kind of let me leverage that credential to get bigger ones. First big client, I would say I owe so much to this person, but Max Jenke from Endeavor Design. When I was 19, I was working at a snowboard shop. No, when I was 18, I was working at a snowboard shop and just taking photos and all this stuff. And then, he saw a photo that I shot in Edmonton that Tyler Revell reposted. And he found out that I was working at the boardroom and that I was shooting for Snowboard Canada. And then he offered a retainer contract that essentially let me quit my minimum wage job at a snowboard shop to kind of go focus on snowboard and photography full time. So that was my first like quote unquote big client, and I owe so much to Max. He just like has done the world for me.
Wow. When you see him next, I don't know if it was first or second season they started the brand. I had the Pavo Tikkanen Pro model. It's like a
sick
classic. I mean,
such a sick one.
Came out over 20 years ago now. So to that point, so you turned like pro full-time photography at the age of 19?
Yeah. And I mean, in snowboarding, we always discuss it, like, what does it mean to be pro? I guess technically from a standpoint.
11.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't working at a snowboard shop when I was 18 or 19, I guess. I don't know. I guess pro being like, if we're defining pro by like, if you make a full-time living off of it, I'd say I turned pro at like 18 or 19 as a photographer. But I mean, I also got to cover it 21, so no, at 20, so maybe that's when I turned. I don't know the regulations for this.
I think if I look in the Oxford Dictionary definition, it will probably tell me that pro is and that's your full-time employment and you're not working at the snowboard shop or doing the other stuff. So I think you definitely made it at 19. And then did you haven't mentioned university or college or anything else along the way here. So I'm judging by that you turned pro at 19 and you didn't go to college, couldn't go to university, did you even do any courses in photography, or is this all self-taught?
No, it's self-taught. So if we're going a little bit deeper, like I always wanted to go to school. That would I definitely recommend school for the right people. Absolutely no slander on that. Education is super important. But for myself, I've always wanted to go to school for design communication. I really wanted to see what graphic design was like. That was always my goal when I was a kid before I started photography. And that's kind of what I thought I would end up doing. But when I was 17, in my grade 12 year of high school, my mom got diagnosed with cancer, and I just knew immediately I can't afford this. I don't have the money for school. I don't have the funds or resources or anything. So I was just working at a snowboard shop and decided to try and become a professional photographer. I think right there. Yeah, and it was never a choice where I was oh, I don't want to go to school or anything like that. It was just kind of necessity that I couldn't afford it, so I taught myself photography and decided to make a living out of it.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, congratulations on everything that you've achieved. It's really, really cool.
Thank you so much.
I had a couple of other questions. So now there we go. So now you are shooting the US ski and snowboard team. It looks like by that big claw on your forehead that you're also contracted by Monster. Who are your are they the two brands, or are they the two kind of entities that you work the majority of your time with, or who else do you work with?
Yeah, so US snowboard team is definitely my biggest one right now. That's what I spend majority of my time doing. Absolutely grateful for them and the team over there. I have the best corner over there. They have the best team. My background, I'm Japanese and Canadian. I'm not American at all, but they still took me in, still let me shoot for them. I have nothing but amazing things to say for the US snowboard team. And then, yeah, other than that, I shoot and work for Endeavor Designing still. For 5 years later, still work for Max Jenke. Big shout out to him.
Nice.
Yeah, and then Monster, we've just been doing a bunch of projects this year. Definitely a lot more to come throughout this year, which is I'm super excited for. Some things that I'd love to share down the line. And then, yeah, different clients are just and then other than that, I just work completely freelance. I don't really have an exclusive contract with anyone. So yeah. To say it's kind of random. We just did a little thing for Adidas Terex with Oliver Connolly and Kirsty and Ming, which is super fun to shoot. A few days from now, I don't know. Yeah, we're doing a little Montclair thing, and then Prada with Julia Marino. A few various different ones, North Face, Arc'teryx, but just non-exclusive. And I like it, and I kind of like how it goes.
Very cool. And then there was a couple of people who asked, how did you start working with the US team?
Yeah, so that one, I'd say it's a lot of snowball effect. The year I graduated high school and kind of decided I wanted to do this as a living, there was a contest going on in Edmonton called the Style Experience. And so I booked a plane ticket out of my own pocket, slept on my friend's dorm room floor. Shout out Jakob Brown. Slept on his dorm room floor for a week on the concrete to go take photos for pretty much myself and just so I could be in the industry. And there I met a lot of the American team, a lot of the Canadian team, shot a few training camps for Team Canada. And then, from there, I think some people saw my work where I got contracted out to go shoot Dew Tour that year. shot due tour, met a lot of the American pipe athletes like Lucas Foster, Chase Blackwell, Chase Dozy, Sonora Alba. And a few months later, at that contest, after the contest at due tour, I went to Mount Hood for Snowboard Productions. Team USA was doing a like training camp there. There, Sonora, Lupo, Chase, they all like spoke super highly of me, and they were looking for a photographer at the time. And then met Danny Cass, which I was like kind of tripping on because freaking Danny Cass. Met Danny, and then he connected me with, he vouched for me, put in his word, which all those guys did, and I owe them the world for that. And then, a few rounds of interviews, few questions, and got assigned to Locks. And then Locks went well, did X Games, Grand Prix, had a break, and then went to Spring Battle, World Championships, Fastfig, Korvac, all this July. Like I owe them the world, but everything was a compounding snowball effect. And why I say it's important to have good relationships is without the people vouching for me and people in my corner from the Canadian team, from the Americans that I met, like I wouldn't have this job even if I was the best photographer in the world. If I didn't have those communication skills and be able to talk to people, I probably wouldn't be here. So
wow, that's amazing. And I suppose at some point in everyone's career, I know Tin, that he's told a few times, he has a story about photoshopping his own picture onto company offsite pictures from DB. So he kind of made himself look, he already worked it. I did a similar thing. Well, I didn't do that. I did an internship for like a year at Burton, turning screws, doing whatever they needed in Innsbruck. And I think that's what, like, if you can, bet on yourself, as it were. I mean, you bet on yourself to the tune of a flight ticket and sleeping on a friend's floor. Like it can pay off. So I also wanted to ask on Endeavour. So your role with Endeavour, are you creative director? What is your role with the brand?
So right now, I guess more creative director, art director, but I also run the photos there. So what I do for them is look at different companies and kind of decide like, okay, so for Endeavour, I kind of want our social media aesthetic to be this, and then shoot the imagery for that, and then post it on social media so that we have a cohesive like brand identity on our social media and website and everything like that. And then also just give references of specifically for Airhole Sandbox, which are the same company owned by Endeavour Design. I'll be like, we should get this person on. I'm shooting this person quite a bit. We should get a contract for Tosh Kriskoff because he's super sick and represents the company well. And then we'll go shoot together in Horvath or something, and then get images for their website or catalogs, and kind of just low key. But I need Max Jenke is actually the go for trusting me on all that stuff.
It's cool. It's good for people to understand, because I think, especially like the number of people who've got a very good photography background, they then have an eye and they have a taste. They then have an understanding of like how a brand can be coherent across all channels, like quite outside of just pure photography. I have a couple of friends, obviously within this company we have some, but I have one friend who is kind of like that for me. Like if ever I have a question about aesthetics, he's the one I always ask. So it's very good that you do that role for them.
It also definitely helps me, like when I'm shooting for different companies, like from judging what I need on Endeavour socials, I can look at that being like, okay, so Ollie at Adidas probably needs these type of photos for carousel, and then kind of like plan out a little bit better. And that helps me even without like a super, super direct shot list. I'll be like, okay, so this will be for the website. This will be for like, a wide photo on their product page. And this is for social media, and kind of understand like what a marketing person needs and make their life easier.
And so to that point, I mean, what advice? Question here from Gaetan and Charlene. I do hope I pronounced that correct. What advice would you give to a photographer who wants to take their next step, find more projects, and truly professionalize their work?
That's a great question. I'd say for one, it's just like shoot a lot, shoot more, shoot consistently, try new things. And I think the more work that you have, the easier it is to make pitch decks and like pitch to companies and be noticed on social media and like, showcase your work is to have the work to back it up in the first place. So I would say number one step is to shoot a lot, shoot what you want to attract, shoot like, different things that you want to have, that you want to pitch for, mock like spec shoots and mock shoots are always great, to kind of practice that. And then the second one would be like to either pitch or cold email and stuff. I think like even for you, John, like I cold emailed you like 2 years ago and I was like, I love your products. I have the Snow Pro and like, all this stuff. But yeah, I'd say have the work to back it up and then have the work to back something up and then pitch something. Cold emails, I mean, they're underrated. You're probably going to get, 1 out of 20 responses. But sometimes you get dope people like John that reply to your email from out of nowhere. So it's kind of worth it.
Mm-hmm. And then like we'll start rounding it out here. If anyone's got any final questions, just drop them in the chat. But so since you emailed me, I've been following you for a couple of years now. One thing that I've noticed on your social media channels is two things. Like there's two things which I've noticed on your socials, and Tin, you probably know this word better than me, but like you've done some content which I assume is like top of funnel, like ways to attract people to your channel, which is like, hey, here's how I shot this piece, or I'm a 21-year-old photographer doing this thing. Like, and I'm sure there's some people I'm sure there's probably some people in the industry who are like, oh, that's not the way. Like most photographers just post a beautiful image every single day and they're good with it, right? And you're active in that way of trying to actually, I would say, tell your story as to like who you are, your style, your age, etc. Like, has that been an active decision from you? Like, have you tried to approach social media in that way, or is this just how young people work and I'm old as shit by this point? You can say that. That's totally valid.
No. Yeah, so honestly I didn't start posting reels until like 2025, I think, because I kind of thought like I was always scared of like the feedback and like, like, oh, what would people think about my work if I posted on reels? What would my reputation be? And then
that's what I mean.
And then I don't know, at some point I was kind of just like, I don't really care. I want to showcase my work to as many audiences as I can, and like the more people that see my work, the better. So if I'm not using Instagram Reels, I'm kind of just leaving money on the table and kind of just like letting it be, I guess. Sometimes I do post things and I'm like, oh, that was kind of cringy. Shit, I should probably take it down. But honestly, for me, trial reels were pretty great because they extend it to everyone but your audience, and you can attract more audiences through it. So if you have that feature, it's a great way to kind of just post a lot and get a lot of new engagement. And for me, what was important, I never really cared too much about followers and stuff like that. I don't like, it's cool, but like I'm not really like super obsessive with it. But one thing that I really started working on from last year, I guess kind of teasing my next project, is I'm working on some nonprofit workshops, and I wanted proper sponsors that could like back that up and like have some prizing to give away to some, kids that attend the workshop and support the people that are also coming up. And one thing I realized is posting on Reels gets you followers, and I mean, DB is a great one because they don't only just look at followers, but there are different companies that look at followers as a major one. And I just want to have a platform to be able to share my work, support the next generation with like different workshops, and have the right companies backing me up. And it was just one of those things, I guess, that I kind of looked at.
We'll definitely support you when you feel.
Thank you.
If there's kids coming up who need Rambo Pro backpacks for their photography gear, we'll hook them up.
My favorite backpack.
The other one I had on social media for you as well. We just came out of Christmas, New Year. A lot of people talk about goals. You're also quite like, I set goals, and I'm sure as hell I'm kind of scared to actually share them with anyone besides potentially my wife. But you're pretty straightforward, and they're on your social media. I don't know if there's any up there now, but it was like, I forget, like work with Monster, do this, shooting at Olympics, like,
Yeah.
again, similar question. Like, was there a moment in your head where you were like, "Oh, this is like, how do I feel about doing this?"
Yeah.
Like, how's that process been? Because when I saw it, I was like, in general, if you, and this is cheesy as whatever you want to say, but like, there is that manifesting thing, right? If you say something, it
Mhm.
will generally get you there. And so when I see you doing stuff like that, I'm like, shit, this kid wants to go and make it happen. So let's support him.
Thank you guys. Yeah, first of all, thank you to both of you guys and the whole team at DV, because you guys are the best support whenever anything goes wrong. You guys are the first ones to have my back, and same with Endeavor and Oakley and Arcteryx and Northfield, like so many companies. But for me, one thing with writing my goals is like I realized that people, like, if I saw someone that wanted to achieve something, I would want to help them out and see what I could do to help them out.
Mhm.
I kind of figured like maybe people would want to help me out, and putting my goals online, like people can't help you to achieve something you want if they don't know what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
And honestly, since posting those goals, it was also sort of like accountability for myself. Just to make sure that I'm always focused on doing this. And it's kind of like, I don't know, I think I work somewhat well under pressure. And like with that pressure of like kind of having like, okay, like this is what I want to do and it's out in the world. I'm gonna get these things, or I'm gonna die trying to get these things, I think. And I don't know, it was just one of those things. And also manifestation, like manifestation can be kind of a silly word sometimes, but for me, it's kind of like if I think of something that I really want, I'm gonna constantly think of it. And like if I know where I want to be, I'm gonna be thinking about how to get there and have actions that kind of tailor, what I do to get me to where I want to be. And yeah, it's kind of like a self accountability thing. Other half would kind of just be like, this is hey world, this is what I want to do. I don't know.
Cool. Very cool. And so you're headed to the Olympics in a couple of weeks here?
Yeah, week. Fly out February 2nd.
Amazing. And then so that's probably one of your big goals. What else is on the goals list for this year?
My big one was like I really wanted two things. Like my two biggest goals as well is like I really wanted to get a cover photo and I really want to get to the Olympics. Yeah, Olympics, that's coming up a lot quicker than I was anticipating. That was kind of one of those goals. I was like, I'm gonna get this or I'm gonna die trying. If I get this at 70 years old, that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were my two big goals. My goal for this year is really just start up a nonprofit workshop and teach more people about photography, more people about art. Art is something that honestly, I want to say saved my life. It's something that makes the most sense in the world to me. It's something that's got me through grief, through the hardest times of my life, and it's given me this amazing life and community and people that I've been able to connect with and meet just purely because of art. And I want to spread that wealth of knowledge and have more people introduced to this amazing art form. And yeah, so I guess big one would be just to try and start up a nonprofit workshop with currently I'm trying to figure one out with Chill Foundation, because they work with like community centers, alternative high schools, orphanages, and just kids that come from underprivileged backgrounds, and they give snowboard resources to them. But for me, like one big thing was art was my savior. Snowboarding was also my savior, and if I can help a kid through hard times with art and teach them this different outlet, that'll be cool. So that's one thing. And then other than that, I just want to keep shooting and keep making art. And I don't know, it's the most fun thing in the world.
Amazing. Isami, that's been an absolute honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone who tuned in, everyone who sent your questions in. That was a real highlight to start the year, I think. I know one thing on your goals is also to hold some kind of gallery, and I do believe that we're going to try and work together to make that happen. I would love to do something in the US with a couple of retailers, maybe with Evo or someone. And I would love to get you over to Europe to do something. I know there's a few people in London here. We've got a pretty good community over in Europe as well for this kind of thing. So love to see what we can do to kind of, make this into a real life thing as well. So
Thank you.
Thank you guys all for tuning in. That was a super special way to start the year. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you to both of you guys and everyone behind the scenes at TV. You guys are the best. And I don't know, I can't say enough thank yous, but thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.